So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have for you for the rest of the morning and as we go into the afternoon is an opportunity to go into far more detail in specific areas of the report, to also share best practice, case studies, things that have worked, things that may not have worked so well. And then later in the afternoon, we'll talk about methodology, the tools and methodology as well. So you will leave here this afternoon with a lot of information and a lot of thoughts. Plus, we also are very pleased to say, still to come, our keynote from MEP Jens Geier as well, here talking to you about his view on the future, today and the future. So let us turn now to the first of three panels. This one is about what the industry needs to do today for the jobs of tomorrow. So what the industry needs to do to start on the right lines for the future. And as we have already heard from Anna, that future has quite an element of uncertainty as well within it. So I'd like to welcome our guests on stage. First of all, from Syndex, those who have written the report, we have Fabien Couderc. Also joining us, Frank Siebern-Thomas, Head of Unit Fair Green and Digital Transition at DG Employ. We have Nevin, Alija, EU Affairs Manager at Floene, and Raluca Popescu, General Federal Secretary of Gaz Romania. If you would all like to come and join us, please. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see that we have a mix of different people to start to talk about this in a little more detail. We will hear from each of our panelists. There will also be opportunities for questions at the end as well. But I thought to start us off, let's take it back to the report, Fabien. So one of the report authors, we're going to talk now about the jobs for today, for the future. So, Fabien, over to you.
Thank you very much. So, hello, everyone. I'm Fabien Couderc for Syndex, and one of the contributors of this report. And I have the task now to introduce this panel with few insights from our report. And it's true, like when I saw the title of this panel, Preparing Today the Jobs of Tomorrow, well, that's a big share of what we try to do in the report, to investigate and to try to give some tools, insights, to answer exactly to this question. How do we prepare today for the jobs of tomorrow? Because it was very clear with the stakeholders of this project, and for us as well, it was mentioned this morning that gathering data with such a top-down approach at the European level is actually very difficult. We're working with big, huge aggregated data. It's difficult to have like the finesse required actually to have a strict analysis of the jobs impact, the skills that will happen all over Europe. Because I think it has been clear, and it's clear for everybody this morning, that when we speak about the transition, the energy transition applied to the gas industry, it's huge change at stakes. Things are very uncertain. And when you look at, for instance, the targets required in Repower EU, it's extremely rapid changes. So beside even the question of the level of employment in Europe, something is pretty clear that the transition won't be homogeneous in all Europe. It will differ extremely from territory, from countries, and so on. And another point I want to mention, and that's why actually that was mentioned today, is there is a lot of literature when you're looking at how to decarbonize sectors. It's true for gas, it's true for other sectors as well. When you speak about the social impact of this decarbonization, there is very few literature on it, so we work with scarce sources, actually. So that's why we took this approach, actually, to try to gather what we can as findings on the future of the sector, on the challenges, and what can happen to jobs and skills, but really focus with the stakeholders to develop tools and methodology to prepare now for tomorrow. But first, to introduce a methodology, and we will speak about it later as well during the day, I just wanted to share with you and to steer a bit more maybe the discussion with the panelists of just few insights that we gather in the report. For instance, like of some specific features have to be taken into account now that we're aware of when we're speaking about the gas industry. It has been mentioned by Anna this morning, is something that has to be taken into account is a high proportion of small and medium-sized companies in the sector. It's not only big groups, it's also SMEs as well. And this raises the question about the capacity of this company to mechanism in place to achieve the energy transition or guarantee a coordinated approach. Therefore, special attention should be put on these companies so they are not left behind. And it will also cut in the fact that they spread over territories as well. It has been mentioned this morning as well by you, Anna. Gas industry is not the only one going through the transition. And you can very much imagine that some specific profiles, some specific skills might be extremely demanded across sectors. It's already the case today. You speak about welders, for instance, who are asked for renewables. They're asking, will be in the gas industry. They are as well in the aeronautic industries. How do we do to that we sure that we have the right people at the right time and the right place? Very large territorial disparity in terms of location of companies. So therefore, it has also a role of all the stakeholders to be taken into account, but also like local and regional public authority, local operators and energy communities, and they all become key to ensure national parity, avoiding inequalities and supporting a bottom-up approach. It has been mentioned about the issue of attractiveness and inclusiveness. There is very few women in the sector. It's interesting also that we to investigate further actually the why and how to overcome actually this disparity. And again, Anna, you mentioned it, so I don't, but I put another layer on it, on the attractiveness, about how do we cope actually with, to make the sector more attractive, better image, and for this it needs to have better vision of what the future of the sector is, what the opportunity of the sector is, and also in phase with energetic transition to a decarbonate Europe. But so like we tried to, even like on this top-down approach, to try to highlight a few already visible main trends when we are talking about skills. First of all, like it's important, like when we're looking at we're speaking now about energy transition, regarding also with skills and employment, you need also to take into account another transition that is going on, which is a digital one. So I will never put, of course, for me, it's a personal opinion, we don't speak about the same transition at all. It's not the same goals, it's not the same impact, it's not for the same reason. But both of them impact employment, both of them impact skills. And you can think one without thinking the other. But I think it's still pretty clear in the way it's approached in the European discussion about it. But therefore, you can insulate just what is needed for the energy transition, or the just transition, without taking into account the digital one as well. So just like these four trends we highlighted in the report. First one, we require major and sustained reallocation of labor across sectors, definitely. Occupation and regions, as well as significant investment and upskilling, retention of existing workers and attracting new workers as well, have been addressed this morning. Skills development will be a particularly important challenge as new capacity will be necessary, mainly in digitalization, decarbonization, innovation, internalization, and resilience as well in the sector. There is a high demand which is forecast for engineers, specialists, and business professionals who have actually the expertise in emerging technology, but you have to train those people too. And you can expect new jobs, opportunities when you go to innovation and product development, disassembling, remanufacturing, repair, administrative handling of new services, contracts, resource scouting, and information management. That is a few findings. But you see already, like it's broad strokes, actually a broad image of what's going to happen. What we're lacking now is a bit also the finding of the report. How do we develop a more refined, granular vision of what's going to happen in the sector in the future? And that's one of the main things we develop actually in the report, and we have the opportunity to come back later on it, is in such a complex one, which is all over Europe, with very big disparities in territories. we need to refine, have a more granular vision of it. And also, that's why we developed this methodology. I forgot one slide, I'm sorry about it. But it's coming a bit with what I was saying anyway. So to develop tools which are actually needed today to prepare the jobs of tomorrow. That one will still like mapping the best practices that could be replicated and developed to the gas sector whenever possible. That's what we try to do actually in the report. Educational and vocational training and develop the tool to do so. A sound methodology agreed by social partners aiming at identifying the current jobs in the gas value chain, linking current jobs to technological, economic, and environmental changes, identifying trends for employment, future jobs, and skill. And of course, with Termandu's role for the social dialogue and collective bargaining, actually, to go and to achieve this. So I came back, actually, to what I wanted to say, and that how do we achieve to prepare today for the jobs of tomorrow? For us, it was clear, like, we need visibility, and we need to know already what is today in a shared approach with the stakeholder to move forwards. And when I say shareholders, mainly social partners. And that's why when we developed in this report with the stakeholder of the project, this methodology, really, I mean, like, you come and agree together on a shared approach, defining the objective and the field investigation, then you can actually, afterwards, make really this mapping of job and skills. And this needs to be as granular as possible, which is an exercise can be difficult if you just do it at the European level. It needs to be also at the national and local level. Involving the social partner, be able to map the skill, family of jobs as well, to already know where you are at today, and of course, put in relation with the position in the value chain of the gas. Then you can actually, when you have the picture of today, build a scenario and the trends of the future, but you need to decline those scenarios not only at the overall and holistic level, but territorial, national level. Then you can identify the gaps between what the jobs of today and what might be the jobs of tomorrow according to those scenarios, and that's how we can, with this shared approach, develop the tools to ensure that you meet the targets that you might have made in the third step. And that's really actually how we want to develop, really as a way of how to prepare today for tomorrow. We think, what we advocate in the report anyway, should be done today, and the follow-up actually of this report in the future. And this really have to be, for us, really the idea is not to be declined only at the European level, it's to be involved social partner at the national and local level as well. So here it is for the quick overview, actually, our take on this panel as an introduction. And that's my cue. I'll leave the floor to you.
Fabien, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to
Sure.
take a seat over there? And there'll be time for questions at the end. So that's taking it back to the report. And I thought those steps at the end with the beginning to look at the methodology, really interesting of how you've broken that down. But again, that sort of feeling that one of the biggest challenges you're facing is the uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with so much so up in the air and changing so very quickly. What I'd like to do now is hear from our other panelists just a few thoughts on your particular position in this, and then we'll open to questions. Frank, would you like to start us off?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation, introduction. Thank you for the invitation. So my name is Frank Siebern-Thomas. I'm with the European Commission, DG Employment Social Affairs, where I'm heading a new unit which was set up 1.5 years ago with the long title Fair, Green and Digital Transitions Research. So we have a triple mandate, if you want, to analyze policies, to support policy development, to making these two transitions fair and also build synergies between the two. And we are also expected to build a link with the research side. As DG Employment is a new research DG under the Horizon Europe Research Innovation Program. So identifying evidence gaps helps us also to come up with ideas where could we use European co-funded research in the future to build those bridges and help produce evidence or help assess skill requirements of new technologies early on in the process and as a standard part of research. I would like just to start by thanking that studies like this one are extremely important for us because We don't have this data either. We don't have that granular data on all the sectors, but we need it. We need it in our work on just transition. We probably come to that in a discussion where we discuss more. And on the findings, I think our work we're doing, trying to do at European level on what are the employment social impacts of the green transition in particular, very much concurs with the findings shown here. Overall, the positive message is there's scope, as we say, for a triple dividend, to reduce emissions, to create quality jobs, and to put everyone better off, but only with the right policies in place. And that's what we're here to discuss. But the findings are the same, that there is scope for job creation, including in the energy sector, but with a lot of reallocations affected in many of the industrial value chains as well. And there's also scope, for example, to address or to counter labor market polarization we have seen from digitalization by creating jobs, technical jobs, vocational training-based jobs in many of the middle segments of the labor market, construction and others, if we get it right, if we get the right retraining, reskilling right. Before short points in reaction, if I may stir up the debate a bit, the first one, your industry at crossroads. Point well taken, was mentioned several times this morning. I think it fits into a context where our economies, our societies, Europe and the world overall, to some extent, are at crossroads. So without being dramatic, we know that action is needed. We know that there are dramatic reports from the IPCC on us not being on track to meet the 1.5 degree target. And in the last report, the IPCC has stressed that if we do not step up our efforts, and there are many, many reasons for Europe to do it, and we are doing it quite effectively, we believe. If in general we do not step up our efforts, then the main way out will be massive social transformations. So what would that mean? I'm trying to make this point here that obviously this type of being at the crossroad, uncertainties affects everyone, and your sector, industry overall, has a key role to play to make this decarbonization transition a success. That's in our interest, and that's, I think, from the European perspective, part of the European competitiveness agenda. It's not, decarbonization, not an agenda against industry, on the contrary. And you have seen the announcement for a Green Deal industrial plan coming up soon, announced by the President in Davos. I think all of this attracts a lot of attention. And we may want to discuss about this. I took note of the question if Europe does enough or if there's an energy policy strategy, a difficult question. But we believe, at least, and they were mentioned, that a lot of policies are being put in place to support actors, to support the rollout of renewables, the development of hydrogen value chains, biomethane were mentioned, to support first EU-wide hydrogen projects, to build a hydrogen accelerator, to boost industrial decarbonization with a lot of funding from the European Innovation Fund, and all the measures taken to address the energy crisis following the start of the war in Ukraine, in particular, to improve energy security. Your sector has contributed a lot to it, but also to support demand reduction, to build new forms of solidarity, and to do common purchase, build partnerships, and so on. So I think there has been a lot of progress in these areas. My second point I'd like to make refers more to what do we do on the policy side. Yes, these transitions will not be just by default. We have to put policies in place, including employment social policies at all levels, to make this happen. This has been recognized at several levels in the European Green Deal Fit for 55 package. You know, there's this Just Transition Fund to support certain regions affected by phasing out of fossil fuel-based industries. There is an agreement now on a new social climate fund to address hardships also for companies coming from ETS in buildings and road transport. And we have worked and negotiated a council recommendation on ensuring a fair transition towards climate neutrality, where we discussed with the member states. Member states adopted it unanimously in June last year. Member states committed to assess what are the key challenges in their specific area, social employment skills-related impacts, to put in place comprehensive policy packages which should cover all policies as necessary, support transitions towards quality jobs, including income support and innovative collective bargaining-based transitions, support inclusive education and training. A lot was mentioned already, skills, reskilling, upskilling, adjust as needed fair taxation systems and social protection systems to support these transitions, and last but not least, ensure access to essential services for all, at an affordable price, including energy and transport. I'm mentioning this recommendation because it has more particular focus on the role of social partners and stakeholders. It says very clearly we need to improve our evidence base. We need to have an open dialogue with all. What are our targets? What are actual impacts? What are good practices? Therefore, your studies are so important. And we need to certainly involve in setting up such just transition policies and designing, implementing, and monitoring them, stakeholders at all levels, in all phases, notably social partners, and through collective bargaining, plus ensure regular dialogue, open dialogues throughout the transition, also on what does not work probably, and correct it as we go along. And last but not least, it refers to funding tools. So we may want to discuss a bit about this, what Europe tries to put up as a kind of just transition policy framework at European level, and we may want to discuss what we do effectively to monitor it or to help member states to implement it. And a third point, attractiveness was mentioned. We had last year a Eurobarometer survey, which is a survey to test the temperature among Europeans of what their main hopes and concerns are as regards fairness aspects of the green transition. The things you discuss here came up very closely. Europeans in general want to support the transition. They feel personal responsibility. They are, even despite the difficult situation, showed willingness to, or said they were able to reduce their energy consumption, for example, and make a contribution. They also say quite clearly, a majority, they want to be in jobs that contribute to the green transition. More than half. For young Europeans, it's 2/3 probably. But majorities are not sure that Europe can reach, really, this ambitious target of sustainability by 2050, providing affordable access to sustainable products and services in 2050. A majority is not sure they have the right skills to do so. And there's a general recognition that policies need to be supported. So this question comes out very strongly, this challenge to respond to the request, reskilling, upskilling, and also to address increasing labor shortages. That was mentioned, something we see, and which is seen increasingly as a potential barrier to making this transition a success. Therefore, also the Green Deal Industrial Plan, which will focus on one pillar on it. The third point, we will discuss this a lot, but on skills. Anticipation and management of change is absolutely key in this area, including the identification of future skill needs and support to reskilling and upskilling. And here again, we may want to discuss what the tools are. Europe supports, for example, bottom-up approaches in ecosystems, in certain sectors, to let industry actors, social partners define transition pathways, define those needs, and support them to put it in place. Under the European Pact for Skills, there's a commitment by social partners to retrain, reskill, upskill more than 6 million Europeans in different sectors. So here certainly there are tools in place, and we may want to discuss about others, whether they are sufficient or not. And my last fourth point would be we are also active on the international front, because the issues we discuss here are, including just transition challenges, are not European problems alone. Particularly with the US and Canada, we have engaged in the context of the so-called Clean Energy Ministerial on an initiative we call Empowering People, Skills and Inclusivity for Just Transitions. And the issues we mention here, like reskilling, upskilling, and increasing the diversity of the workforce, bringing in women more into energy sectors, are center stage there. And we have, for example, developed with the International Energy Agency document on good practices also at European, at global level, and want to engage further in this discussion, because we need to discuss technological developments and social developments at the same time here. So I stop there. Happy to take comments and questions later on. Thank you.
Frank, thank you very much. Thank you. A thought that I wonder whether you could just clarify your view on this one. Where do you feel the balance of responsibility lies for a just transition for workers in the gas sector? Is it with the politicians and the policies, the overall policies, or is it with the industry?
think probably on most questions, the answer is it's a shared responsibility of all actors, including even, as I mentioned, consumers and others who are part of a general response to the challenges we are living now. But I think what Europe is trying to put in place, has put in place with the European Green Deal and with a number of initiatives rolled out more recently in response to the energy crisis and other crises, is a credible policy framework, a clear targets which are enshrined in legislation, which do provide certainty, supplemented by tools, by support tools, quite powerful support to investments through the Recovery and Resilience Facility and others, plus policy dialogues. So I think it has to be a common one. Obviously, it's not the policymakers at European or national level who will implement it at the company level, at the local level. You need to include actors. You need to provide a framework which allows for implementation according to the needs on the ground, according to the specific challenges in the sector, according to the structures there. And I think that's something my colleague this afternoon will say we support with our programs on social dialogue and others. So it's not Europe identifying solutions at every level, but providing the overall framework for this. And I think, as I said, we had hearings in the run-up to our proposal for a council recommendation on fair transition, which was requested in the communication on the first Fit for 55 package. We had half a year to set it up. We had hearings with all stakeholders, with the social partners, with member states, with civil society at large. I think the views were largely shared on the need to support a just transition, on the challenges. But what was striking for me is all groups said it's great to have these long-term projections, that everything will be well and fine in 2050, that there will be net gains overall. But what is about the actual impacts now?
Yeah.
And I think what we try to do is exactly that, and to be open to that debate and have that debate as part of a transition, as we can't try it out a second time afterwards. We have to get it right while we put it in place, and obviously feedback from putting such methodologies in place, from putting best practice in place is absolutely key to it, and then to spread it among everyone.
Absolutely, because right now we sit here in this room, but there are communities and families who knows how many challenges surrounding them, plus the uncertainty of the future. Thank you very much, Frank. Should we hear from Portugal, Nevin? Incidentally, I saw you when Frank mentioned funding, you were like, mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for having me today. I was hoping to have brought a little bit of sun from Portugal, but I didn't make it all the way to Brussels. So for you that are not familiar, our company Floene is the leading gas distribution system operator in Portugal. It operates 9 of the 11 DSOs. So we hold quite a bit of responsibility and also are proud to be very deep into the different communities, because our operation ranges from north to south of Portugal. So we find ourselves in that position that we get really close to our customers as a DSO and hold that responsibility really close. We have been going through the past years through a process of transformation and change, and we are known with a new name, but we also are marked by a history of 175 years, where we very much pride ourselves with having been in charge of bringing light to the streets of Lisbon. So we have gone from that to town gas to natural gas. So we are enshrined with transformation from one energy to another, and we have already gone through this path for a long time, and are very open to doing it. So once again, as we reach transition and we commit ourselves to climate goals. But for that to happen, we see that on the one hand, we are examining the future of our business, what it will look like, what the future energy system is going to be, how we are going to decarbonize. And on the other hand, we see our people. We refer to them as that, our collaborators, the ones that have been with us through this history. When we relaunched ourselves as Floene during this 2022, we opened a big dialogue within the company, ranging through all of the 500 people that work for us, and to talk from the technical fields to the people that are in the business units with each other to get to meet each other and establish what the core values that they see for this company of the future is be. And we reached an agreement. We narrowed it to 3 that were audacity, respect, and collaboration. And we are keeping this in mind and we go forward in our operation. And for that, these values are together with the mission that we have. And such, we have been dedicated very much to identifying, preparation and identification are 2 elements that go hand in hand. We have to know what the future is going to hold for us and then to prepare for that. We have been working with our collaborators in the upskilling and reskilling, so training that has been brought today several times has been at the core of our activities. And for that, we have seen that it's not enough to simply identify programs that are out there. We are working closely with academia to create those that better fit for our collaborators. So identifying what the needs for training that they have and then create dedicated programs for them. And while this is on the operational part, we also are seeing that this has to go with the strategy also. So the leaders that we have amongst us, we have to prepare them to be the leaders of the future. And for that, we are also having discussions with them throughout the company to identify where they see our business going forward, what we need to work better, and how we can shape them into being the leaders of these several transitions. So it's not just the climate transition for the digital part. We have people that have been with the company for 20 plus years, 30 plus years, that we have knowledge and that we have to keep to the new generations. And in that, another element that we have identified is openness. So these dialogues that we had with our collaborators, we had them without any fear of anything being kept, judged. Whatever they shared with us, it was even a constructive criticism for what the company had done, what it was going to do going forward, a full transparency to where are the challenges that the sector is facing, because we are talking today for the gas sector, but the gas sector is full of very different companies, and we all differ from the transportation to the distribution. We have different concerns, while sometimes they may be similar. And in full transparency, we launched last year also an initiative for our collaborators that was called We Talk Knowledge Sharing, where we had invited experts from different fields outside of the company to talk about what the policy discourse was right now. What are the legislative proposals that are going to impact our business and that our collaborators have to be aware of? And we shared with them real concerns that we had and how we see it, that we are going to face them going forward. In our collaboration with academia, in the several projects that we are conducting, we think that we are a company that is not afraid of innovation. So for that, everything that we are doing is open data. We are organizing in our project also a way for the collaborators to learn new skills. So they are also challenging themselves. It's challenges for us, but also for them. And in that, we aim to draw lessons for all of the experiences that we have going forward. To say just as a, maybe not a rebuttal, but just to pick up on a point from Frank's earlier, I think the industry is very well aware that we are going to transition. What I think maybe is not coming out is these examples of we're already taking action. We are not leaving this to fall upon us one day and we wake up and we have to do that. No, we're already thinking strategically of what the system is going to look. If today, for example, we have more knowledge and as a company we are very focused in renewable gases, in hydrogen and biomethane going forward, we know more that there are going to be other vectors to decarbonize. Nevertheless, there's still that lack of stability, exactly what the energy system of the future is going to look. And while we take actions, sometimes in this discourse that we have with our collaborators, we need to have that certainty of we are going down the right way, and all that we are doing for them, all of this work that is happening, is one that is going to bring fruits in the future. Just to end, part of what DSOs are very proud of is the capillarity of our business, how we go so deep in the communities and we see real impacts. And the concerns that the communities have are some that we take very seriously, but we are also in a system that maybe we were more focused to the customers in the future. This is now a more decentralized system that we are seeing. So we also have to keep those elements and those factors in mind going forward.
And how much easier has it been now that you have the data on your workforce to actually look ahead and go, okay, well, if X, Y, Z happens, we know that we can very quickly move into that? Or does that just sound like wishful thinking, what I've said?
No, it's not wishful thinking. Everything, once you have more information, becomes clearer, right? But I think we still have many challenges going forward. We have identified elements, for example, such as diversity in our company. It is very technical field where we had to open that and to bring and to do a lot of work, even with the younger generations, in order to attract more women, for example. That there are those kind of challenges still. The data helps thus far to identify going forward, but I think we still need more work to do also with our collaborators.
What I'm going to do, the gender question, the diversity question, subject area, huge area, that'll be the first one we come to in a moment, because I would like to get all your views on how that is tackled. But I'd like to hear from Romania now. So we've heard from Portugal. Let's totally switch it around. Raluca.
Yes, hello. I will be speaking in Romanian, so if you have headsets or something, that would be great.
I thought the whole room was a Romanian speaking.
Așa cum am zis, vin din România, din partea Federației din Gaz. Avem membri de sindicat din toate ramurile industriei gazului, extracție, transport pe conducte mari, distribuție, furnizare, înmagazinare. Din acest motiv, provocările industriei și mai ales a angajaților din această industrie ne sunt foarte bine cunoscute. În primul rând, vreau să spun că mă bucur foarte tare că am reușit să, împreună cu colegii noștri care am încercat de foarte mulți ani să repunem, să redăm viața acestui grup de dialog social, că s-a reușit și că am făcut acest proiect și să felicit Syndex pentru concluziile raportului și raportul foarte bine detaliat. Într-adevăr, și la noi, fără vreun studiu, ca să zic așa, din ce poți să vezi la firul ierbii, sunt aceleași concluzii. Oamenii au nevoie de sprijin, au nevoie să înțeleagă și au nevoie de suport, să fim alături de ei în a merge mai departe. Este foarte complicat, totodată, mă uitam la titlul acestui panel, m-a amuzat foarte tare că trebuie să ne pregătim astăzi pentru joburile viitorului, care de fapt nu știm care este. Este o just transition, dar nu se știe exact către ce, pentru că schimbările care au venit peste noi, cu pandemie, cu criza, cu războiul din Ucraina, cu toate aceste provocări ale industriei, ba renunțăm la gaz, ba îl mai păstrăm că e totuși mai bun decât cărbunele, practic nu mai știi pentru ce să te pregătești. Deci mi se pare o provocare foarte mare să ne pregătim azi pentru mâine, când nu știm ce ne aduce ziua de mâine. Și din acest motiv am ajuns la concluzia că trebuie să ne pregătim în general pentru orice. Și noi, la nivel național, încercăm să facem și chiar facem programe de training pentru a ajuta oamenii să înțeleagă că schimbarea nu este neapărat ceva negativ, că în orice situație poți găsi și lucruri bune sau oportunități și pentru foarte mulți oameni care ei lucrează de foarte mulți ani în această industrie. Problema la noi în țară nu este neapărat femei o problemă de gen, cât este o problemă de vârstă. Sunt oameni care lucrează de foarte mulți ani în industrie și au impresia că nu pot face decât acest job. După 20, 30, eu știu, de ani de muncă într-un domeniu, într-un singur domeniu, este foarte greu să îmbrățișezi o schimbare și să zici mă apuc de mâine de grădinărit. Dar încercăm să îi pregătim că poate sunt buni și în alt domeniu, poate experiența lor poate fi folosită într-un alt domeniu, nu neapărat gaz, dar este aceeași experiență și pentru asta facem tot felul de cursuri de dezvoltare personală, aș putea spune, adică mai mult soft skills, cum să te pregătești în fața unui val de schimbări care nu știm de unde vor veni. Din păcate, la nivelul țării noastre, acest fenomen de just transition nu este foarte, am vrut să zic îmbrățișat, dar cred că nu este nici măcar atins. Adică, din punct de vedere al politicului, nu se vorbește deloc despre acest lucru, nu sunt evenimente, nu sunt conferințe, nu este nimic. Primul eveniment de acest gen la noi din țară l-am făcut împreună cu Jacob anul trecut în iunie. Se vorbește foarte puțin despre un just transition, mai mult despre Green Deal, da, s-a auzit, dar just transition nu, adică nu cred că se consideră că trebuie să mergem împreună mai departe neapărat sau poate se așteaptă să ne descurcăm. Este un pic dificil pentru noi, dar acceptăm provocarea și încercăm să promovăm această idee peste tot, că și oamenii sunt importanți, dacă nu chiar cei mai importanți, că nu trebuie să lăsăm pe nimeni în urmă și că până la urma urmei această tranziție către o energie verde ar trebui să fie ceva pozitiv, nu să distrugă niște vieți omenești. Și mai ales ce mi se pare cea mai mare provocare, apropo de că ne pregătim pentru mâine, este un pic dificil, pentru că noi vorbim mai mult cu oamenii decât la nivel de a face un plan pentru o companie sau un plan politic. Foarte greu să le spui oamenilor că hai să ne pregătim cum o să fie transformată industria mâine, cu toate aceste noi facturi, ca să zic așa, de gaz și de electricitate care vin peste noi. Cumva oamenii au tendința să perceapă că acest Green Deal și această liberalizare a prețului energiei au venit peste ei și le-au luat o parte din venitul lor consistent și atunci cumva ei nu mai privesc cu ochii buni această tranziție către o energie verde și nici nu prea poți să le mai prezinți că am putea face o tranziție justă către o energie verde atâta vreme cât ei sunt ostili acestui lucru, pentru că îl percep ca și cum din acest motiv prețurile au crescut și venitul lor s-a diminuat consistent. Cam acesta este contextul, ca să zic așa, în România. Tot ce putem face, așa cum am subliniat și din partea Syndex, adică cum au spus și colegii, este să continuăm cu dialogul social, să promovăm în continuare discuțiile pe această temă și să încercăm să susținem membrii noștri de sindicat să treacă prin acest val de schimbări care îi impactează în mod direct. Aici nu mai este vorba de a vorbi despre niște lucruri, ci este de a vorbi cu niște oameni care deja sunt afectați de lipsa acestei just transition. Mulțumesc.
Raluca, thank you very much. And I think the room can hear the frustration coupled with sadness and just a desire to do better. It's all in your voice. We can hear that. Just a very, very quick word from anyone on the panel who wants to pick this up. I'm looking at Nevin, but maybe you don't want to. Maybe Fabien, on how you engage a disengaged workforce. I don't know whether you can give just a very, very quick example.
Yeah, I can pick this up.
Or if we can have Nevin's microphone on, please. Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, I can pick this up because also we are applying new models in the company of getting collaborators more involved. And in that, we are switching a little bit how we do things before to have a closer cooperation and closer talks with them. So sort of having a following up with them in a more regular basis than just the usual. Maybe in some companies you're used to having once a year a chat where everything's great, and that's it. We like to follow up also, and we are applying a number of models within the company to see also if we can have movements within the company from different areas. So people can develop skills that they don't have, knowledge that they don't have, things that they may have seen as interesting before, but they thought that they were stuck in the same position. And to the example that you brought, for example, the person that has been in the same job for 20 years that now thinks, I don't have much to learn, I'm almost getting at the end of my career. Exactly those are also people that we like to involve in different ways, being either through them sharing experiences with the newer generations or being the newer leaders and crafting them in that position. I think what needs to be very more prominent is that people need to be feeling as the actors of change within the companies.
So making them part of it.
Yes.
But Raluca, as you were saying, it's very difficult when it isn't even a topic for conversation at the moment. And as I say, we could hear the frustration. Questions in the room? Would anyone like to jump in with a specific question for any of the panelists? Fantastic, we're just getting a microphone to you. I'm very conscious of time on this panel. There's been some excellent thoughts. Have we got the microphone? Fantastic, thank you. Very conscious of time, so if we could just make any questions quite succinct for me. Thank you.
Mulțumesc, o să încerc să fiu cât se poate de scurt. Domnule Frank, n-am rezistat să nu pun o întrebare vis-a-vis de această tranziție digitală. Și faptul că veniți de la Comisia Europeană, eu aș vrea să știu, și nu cred că sunt singurul din această sală, cum Comisia Europeană va gestiona justeția și echilibru care trebuie să existe în această tranziție. Cum se vede de la nivelul Comisiei Europene asigurarea echilibrului, care va fi strategia Comisiei Europene în a implica federațiile europene în gestionarea acestei tranziții. Pentru că aceasta este o părere personală, dacă nu vom avea un dialog real la nivel european, tranziția digitală s-ar putea să aibă probleme. Mulțumesc!
Thank you for your question. Frank?
Okay, that's... sorry, I have myself... that's a broad question overall, let's say, on how to ensure that also the digital transition is fair, which obviously where the setup is a bit a different one from the one in which we are in the green transition, where we are probably through a policy agenda proactively pushing this transition on the digital side. Obviously, we're also on the receiving end, and because the technologies are developing, and we have to make sure that the way we implement them or we use them at the workplace, I understand in your question, is done in a way which takes into account rules and rights and so on. You know, there are initiatives going on the platform economy. I can't say a lot about those. So the Commission has made a proposal to improve working conditions or in the platform economy, and there are also negotiations going on social partners on specific aspects, on the right to disconnect, for example. As a general answer, the Commission has supported a declaration of rights and principles in the digital era, has a digital agenda to roll it out, to accompany it by promoting digital skills, etc. But this, I think this development and monitoring implementation of what are rights and principles in this case and how can they be implemented is an important one. So I think that's one tool to be developed where at least the declaration is in place. When we look back at the COVID crisis, I think we also have to ask ourselves, what are the opportunities of digitalization? So I had mentioned before that yes, digitalization probably has led to polarization in many labor markets with the creation of many good, high-quality, high-paid jobs, but also of low-paid jobs, and has led to job losses in probably middle segment of the labor market. During the COVID crisis, we have seen that digitalization can also have another impact, and has probably helped us to save many jobs. We adjust to this now. This is potential to use digital tools in the energy transition. It will not work without, even to support consumers, to reduce their energy bills, etc. And we're striving to find this positive, let's say, to promote these positive impacts. I probably have to go back to share more detail on the policy agendas there on your side. Also, we're not in the lead alone, but that's probably what I would try to say, and it's equally important for trustworthiness of technologies, for trust of workers and the large public in those tools. If I may, I had a very short comment on this is not an issue for discussion even, so that's obviously something very important. But I think that's something which we also need to address, because obviously the increasing energy prices since mid-21 are not due to the green transition. On the contrary, the argument would be, had we been faster, we would have been less vulnerable to certain, let's say, certain challenges in this context. And there are a lot of opportunities on the ground. So if we can show that they can be rolled out through local energy communities or through new opportunities in the job, not the same for everyone, hopefully this will help us. And we have some good examples. My last comment, if I may, we have launched at COP27 last year together with the ILO for the first time ever a Just Transition Pavilion to create a space to have a just transition discussion at global level. And in the COP context, and the COP has agreed also to follow up on this with a work program and possible ministerials. Part of this pavilion was a so-called Just Transition Help Desk or Knowledge Hub. So we invited questions from SMEs, from actors all over the world, social partners, and want to use this and develop a tool here to provide answers and questions and matchmaking as part of this. And in this context, for example, I invite also ideas for the next rounds. We want to continue that. We showcased good examples. We heard, for example, from Austria, there are ideas to have worker academies informing workers about, let's say, what are the challenges and opportunities of a socio-ecological transition? What's in there for me? What are the challenges? So I think doing that at companies, but doing that also for workers, for actors in general, should help. And not talking to people who don't think it's a topic is not an issue. We should reach out and involve them and get them involved as actors in this.
Frank, thank you. And I think it underlines also the importance of starting social dialogue before communities start to feel maybe, that things are all because of transition, and actually start to we know exactly what I'm talking about, start to react in a certain way because they are just unhappy, and everything gets lumped together, if I can see it that way. I did promise we would talk about the gender question. I haven't forgotten, but I'm conscious our keynote speaker has now joined us. So I guarantee that we will come back to the gender question and actually how you address that, particularly in the methodology of going forward as well. So we will do that later. But for the moment, if I could thank all the panelists on stage. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, very pleased now to turn to our keynote speech of the day. And I'm very pleased to say that we have somebody with us who feels passionately about social dialogue and inclusion. Member of the Committee on Industry, Research and Energy at the European Parliament. Please welcome MEP Jens Geier.
I start from here?
Wherever you would like.
Okay.
And I will leave you to it, and we can take some questions at the end if you are happy to do so.
Yeah, okay. I was told that I can use my mother language, and since I'm the most precise on that, I will do so. So everybody who is not able to speak the language of Goethe and Schiller is now invited to use the headphones. Meine Damen und Herren, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, vielen herzlichen Dank für die Einladung. Ihr hättet keinen besseren Zeitpunkt finden können, weil ich sehr glücklich darüber bin, mitteilen zu können, dass wir gestern Mittag so ungefähr vor 24 Stunden im Parlament.
May I just stop you for a moment? I don't think we have a translation at the moment.
Okay.
Not into English.
Not into English.
Just bear with me one moment, and if our interpreter could tell me when they are ready. We don't want to miss your words.
I can switch into English, but it is a little bit more convenient for me to speak German.
We now
Okay.
have, yes.
Okay, dann fange ich noch mal von vorne an. Ja, herzlichen Dank für die Einladung. Ich bin versucht zu sagen, dass Sie keinen besseren Zeitpunkt hätten finden können, weil ich sehr glücklich bin, Ihnen mitteilen zu können, dass wir gestern die interfraktionellen Beratungen zur Gasmarktrichtlinie abgeschlossen haben. Das heißt, wir können in den nächsten Wochen zu einer Ausschussentscheidung kommen. Und alles das, was ich Ihnen heute vortragen werde, findet eine breite, wenn nicht sogar eine sehr breite Unterstützung im Ausschuss. Der letzte Kompromiss, der erzielt worden ist, deckt die sozialdemokratische, die grüne, die liberale, die christdemokratische und die konservative Fraktion mit ein. Fragen Sie mich bitte nicht, wie ich das gemacht habe. Aber es ist eine Mehrheit, die sehr breit getragen wird, und wir sind jetzt noch dabei, final zu checken mit unseren Fraktionen, wie wir das in eine Abstimmungsprozedur überführen. Denkbar ist tatsächlich alles in einem Antrag und damit auch nur mit einer Abstimmung durchzubringen, was das Risiko verhindert, dass bestimmte Teile von bestimmten Fraktionen möglicherweise aus dem Interesse, ihren Standpunkt nochmal darzulegen, dieses delikat errichtete Kartenhaus zum Einsturz bringen können, und möglicherweise werden wir auch direkt vom Ausschuss, das heißt ohne eine Plenarabstimmung, in die trilateralen Verhandlungen eintreten. So viel zum Verfahren. Also wir sind fertig. Auch Herr Buzek, der die Verordnung verhandelt hat, also die komplementären Rechtsetzungsakt, ist fertig. Wir sind soweit, der Rat ist es scheinbar nicht. Wir hatten am Montag die schwedische Energieministerin im Industrieausschuss. Da habe ich natürlich genau hingehört, was die zu dem Paket gesagt hat. Und das war ziemlich wörtlich: We continue the negotiations in the Council. Was ja nichts anderes bedeutet, als dass die Ratsseite mit ihrer Beschlussfassung noch nicht fertig ist. Und was ich dann von der ständigen Vertretung meines Heimatlandes höre, ist, dass die wohl auch nicht optimistisch sind, dass der Rat noch zur schwedischer Präsidentschaft fertig wird. Also das sind die Rahmenbedingungen. Wir stehen bereit. Die formalen Voraussetzungen, der politische Kompromiss ist gegeben, die formalen Voraussetzungen müssen noch geschaffen werden. Und dann wären wir 24/7 bereit zu Verhandlungen. Jetzt zu den Inhalten. Ich habe keinen vernünftigen Grund finden können, um beim Thema Entflechtung so vorzugehen, wie die Kommission es vorgeschlagen hat. Um es ein wenig bildlich und vielleicht auch ein wenig, ich bleibe mal dabei, um es ein wenig bildlich zu beschreiben, kam der Vorschlag der Kommission mir so vor, als sei Europa gleichsam ein unentdeckter Kontinent, auf dem sich bisher nichts befindet. Und es gibt keine Gasleitungen, es gibt keine Gastransporteure, es gibt auch nur unterentwickelte Fantasie darüber, wer die Abnehmer sein könnten. Und von daher hat die Kommission einen Vorschlag entwickelt, für den ich außer bei ihr selbst und bei den Regulatoren keinerlei Unterstützung gefunden habe. Bei keinem Stakeholder. Wie die Kommission auf dieser Basis zu dem Impact Assessment gekommen ist, was sie vorgelegt hat, ist mir ein Rätsel, aber auch am Ende nicht mein Problem. Und weil wir alle im Industrieausschuss mit dem Vorschlag der Kommission recht wenig anfangen konnten, war der Vorschlag naheliegend, die Entflechtungsregeln, die wir im Erdgasmarkt haben, so wie sie sind, in dieser Verschiedenartigkeit, wie wir sie in der Europäischen Union erleben, sie aber gleichzeitig den Markt nicht beeinträchtigen, auf die Situation beim Wasserstoffmarkt zu spiegeln. Und das heißt, alles das, was an Entflechtung, an vertikaler und horizontaler Entflechtung im Erdgasmarkt möglich ist, auch im Wasserstoffmarkt möglich zu machen. Es gab doch einige engagierte Diskussionen im Kreis der SchattenberichterstatterInnen darüber, ob wir das ad infinitum so machen sollten. Wir sind dazu gekommen, uns zwischen zwei Leitplanken hindurch zu bewegen. Erstens, die Kommission ist dafür da, das ist die eine Leitplanke, den Markt zu überwachen und wenn in dem Moment, wo sie Manipulationen, Veränderungen, nicht legitimierte Marktmacht feststellt, zu handeln. Also bei einem Nicht-Funktionieren des Marktes einzugreifen, ist ja Aufgabe der Kommission. Auf der anderen Seite kann niemand von uns Interesse daran haben, dass der Markt nicht funktioniert. Und wir wollen schon auch noch mal eine institutionalisierte Überprüfung. Der Kompromiss von gestern ist, dass wir 10 Jahre nach Inkraftsetzen der Marktordnung von Acer eine Überprüfung des Funktionierens des Marktes erwarten wollen. Denn die andere Leitplanke ist eine Revisionsklausel, die sich plötzlich so anhört, wie das, was die Kommission ursprünglich gewollt hat, würde nach meiner festen Überzeugung Investitionen am Ende des Tages blockieren. Der wesentliche Kritikpunkt, um den Schritt nochmal zurückzumachen, der Stakeholder an den Entflechtungsvorschlägen der Kommission war nämlich zu sagen, wenn ich ein Netz, was ich jetzt anfange aufzubauen für Wasserstoff, in 10 Jahren verkaufen muss, weil mich die Entflechtungsregelungen der Kommission dazu zwingen, dann werde ich nicht jetzt damit anfangen. Und die Regulatoren, mit denen ich das Argument mal getestet habe, haben mir dann gesagt, naja, was soll das denn? Die werden doch alle einen fairen Preis für das investierte Netz bekommen. Und dann habe ich gesagt, naja, vielleicht ist das so. Dann habe ich das Argument wieder mit den Stakeholdern getestet. Die fingen dann meistens an zu lachen und haben gesagt, naja, wenn jeder weiß, dass ich das Netz verkaufen muss, wer wird mir denn den fairen Preis geben? Keiner. Also haben wir an dem Punkt gesagt, wir ziehen diese Entflechtungsregel sehr deutlich die Zähne, aber wir wollen von Acer nach 10 Jahren eine Überprüfung der Funktionsfähigkeit haben. Wenn dann herauskommt, der Markt funktioniert nicht so wie gewollt, dann ist Möglichkeiten zum Eingreifen gegeben. Wo wollen wir den Wasserstoff in erster Linie eingesetzt haben? Wir haben in der Richtlinie uns wiederum zu eigen gemacht, was das Parlament bereits bei der Formulierung der Wasserstoffstrategie zur Grundformel gemacht hat. Und diese Grundformel, diese Faustformel würden wir auf Deutsch sagen, die heißt, wir wollen den grünen Wasserstoff fördern und wir wollen den blauen, also den entkarbonisierten, nicht diskriminieren. Aus der Idee heraus, dass wir alle gemeinsam die Idee verfolgen, so schnell wie möglich, so viel wie möglich grünen Wasserstoff zur Verfügung zu haben, aber wissen, da wir so viel erneuerbare Energie kurzfristig nicht zur Verfügung haben, wie allein die industrielle Nachfrage zur Folge haben wird, dass wir bis dahin mit Wasserstoff aus anderen Quellen, vorzugsweise dem blauen im allgemeinen Sprachgebrauch, also dekarbonisiertem Erdgas, das dann zur Stromerzeugung für den Wasserstoff eingesetzt wird, damit starten wollen. Also der grüne Wasserstoff soll am Ende dort zum Einsatz kommen, das ist mein Wille und dem hat sich das Parlament an der Stelle dann noch dankenswerterweise angeschlossen, wo wir die größte Einsparung beim Ausstoß von CO2 erreichen können und das ist nach meiner Überzeugung in der Industrie. Denn wenn es richtig ist, dass wir kaum noch Zeit haben für die Reduzierung von CO2, dann ist es doch auch richtig, dass wir den Wasserstoff, den entkarbonisierten Wasserstoff und den grünen Wasserstoff vor allen Dingen dorthin lenken, wo der Hebel für die CO2-Einsparung am längsten ist. Und das würde dann auch bedeuten, dass der Wasserstoff, den wir zur Dekarbonisierung in industriellen Prozessen einsetzen wollen, eben auch etwas zu wertvoll ist, um sie in die Raumheizung zu setzen. Stattdessen wollen wir dorthin, wo eine hohe Nachfrage gegeben ist, und das ist unter den heutigen Umständen die industrielle Nachfrage für Dekarbonisierung von industriellen Prozessen, in denen große Prozesshitze benötigt wird. Während wir das machen wollen, wollen wir Incentives setzen für die sogenannte Sektorkopplung. Das heißt, Zurückkopplung, glaube ich, ne? Dankeschön. Also ich glaube, dass der Hochlauf des Wasserstoffs zu einer stärkeren Integration der Energieversorgungssysteme führen wird, dass also wir in Zukunft Wärme, Gas, welches Gas auch immer, und Strom enger zusammen denken müssen. Wir werden Wasserstoff auch als Speichermedium benutzen können für Überschüsse aus erneuerbarer Energie an wunderschönen Sommertagen, wo die Sonne scheint und der Wind pustet. Und wir werden über das Thema Wasserstoff diese Energie speichern können, um sie eben auch an Tagen wie heute, wo die Sonne nicht scheint und der Wind auch nicht bläst, dann zum Einsatz bringen zu können. Also Speichermedium in Energievektor und auch Medium zur Rückverstromung. Überall da, glaube ich, wird der Wasserstoff zum Einsatz kommen. Und wenn wir anfangen, diese Energiesysteme zusammen zu denken, dann kommen wir auch zu einer größeren Integration, etwa über die Sektorkopplung. Also industrielle Abwärme, etwa im kommunalen oder regionalen Wärmemarkt für Fernwärme zu verwenden, wird dann selbstverständlicher werden. Elektrolyseure brauchen Grünstrom, also ist die Wasserstoffversorgung nicht ohne ein leistungsfähiges Stromnetz und grünen Strom denkbar. Und schließlich ist ein Gebot der Effektivität und des hohen Wertes von Energie, wenn wir die Abwärme dieser Elektrolyseure zum Beispiel dann nutzen. Ich spreche mich da in dem Bericht für eine integrierte Netzplanung aus, auf der regionalen Ebene, um alle Potenziale der Sektorkopplung auch zu nutzen. Das führt dann wiederum dazu, dass das Europäische Parlament vorschlägt, in Zukunft für alle Gemeinden in der Europäischen Union über 30.000 Einwohner zu einer kommunalen Wärmeplanung zu kommen. Das ist etwas, was wenigstens in Deutschland von vielen Städten und Gemeinden bereits getan wird, noch bevor es in kurzer Zeit ein deutsches Gesetz werden wird, so etwas zu tun, um nämlich dann dahin zu kommen, zu bestimmen. Die Gasnetze, die kommunalen Gasnetze in Deutschland befinden sich oft in den Händen der öffentlichen Hand. Sie sind nämlich Besitz der Städte und Gemeinden. Also dahin zu kommen, zu schauen, was brauchen wir denn eigentlich in Zukunft noch an Netzen? Und die ersten Studien, die dafür auf dem Markt liegen, es gibt erste kommunale Untersuchungen darüber, es gibt aber auch eine Querschnittstudie, zum Beispiel von der Agora Energiewende, angesehenem deutschen Institut für die Transformationsplanung. Alle diese Studien gehen davon aus, dass größere Teile des kommunalen Gasnetzes redundant werden wird. Und dann ist das ein bisschen abhängig davon, wie sind diese Netze gebaut, wie groß sind sie, wie sind sie versorgt, wen müssen sie versorgen, wie hoch ist die Gasnachfrage, welche Alternativen gibt es, wie viel des Netzes redundant wird. Aber es ist vollkommen klar, dass große Teile der existierenden Erdgasnetze in Zukunft redundant werden und die Wärmeplanung, die kommunale, trägt eben dazu bei und die Integration der Energienetze eben auch zu sichern. Schließlich nachhaltige Gase. Schon heute ist die Nachfrage nach nachhaltigem Wasserstoff enorm. Daher sollten wir die Angebote nutzen, die es gibt, und ich stimme der Kommission an dieser Stelle mal zu, dass auch Biomethan eine Rolle in der künftigen Energieversorgung sein wird. Ich wünsche mir, dass die dezentralen Potenziale dieser Produktion vollständig entwickelt werden können und dass die Überschüsse in die Netze eingespeist werden können. Fazit: Eigentlich haben wir jetzt alles beisammen, um die Wasserstoffwirtschaft zu stärken. Wir haben den Willen der Industrie zu dekarbonisieren. Wir haben die politische Absicht, Industrie mit der gesamten Wertschöpfungskette und, das gehört an der Stelle meiner Einladung von Industry All auch dazu gesagt, mit ihren gut bezahlten und in vielen Ländern auch sehr stark durch Mitbestimmung in den Betrieben geprägte Arbeitsplätze alle zu erhalten. Wir haben den Willen zur Transformation in der Wirtschaft. Wir haben die Notwendigkeit zur Transformation durch die Situation im Klima. Wir haben die Technologie und wir haben die Technologieführerschaft in der Welt. Jetzt geht es darum, die Bremsen zu lösen. Mit der Beschlussfassung über das Gasmarktpaket hätten wir die Sicherheit für die Investoren, dann eben auch einen Rechtsrahmen zu haben, mit dem das Wasserstoffnetz am Ende des Tages betrieben werden kann. Und damit bin ich wieder beim Ausgangspunkt. Wir sind fertig, wir können starten, wir sind bereit, die Bremsen zu lösen und wir warten jetzt darauf, dass der Rat auch einen Punkt erreicht, wo er verhandlungsfähig ist. Vielen herzlichen Dank für die Aufmerksamkeit. Ich bin leider ein wenig terminlich nach hinten gebunden. Also ich habe jetzt sicherlich noch eine Viertelstunde, 20 Minuten. Aber ich muss einen dringenden Termin bei mir zu Hause in Deutschland erreichen und ich muss wirklich um 13 Uhr im Auto sitzen. Also melden Sie sich, wenn Sie Fragen haben, lieber früher als später. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören.
Questions, it is now or never. Don't worry, I'm very well aware of your time constraints. Thank you for sharing your views and opinions with us. If I may, I'm going to start on a very direct question for which I apologise, as you were not here earlier today when this was discussed. But it was a few points raised in the room that it was a tricky challenge to get a just transition for workers, and the finger was pointed at politicians. The reason being, the thought was short-term policies for an electoral cycle rather than being given that long-term vision of what the industry should look like. So a criticism saying short-term policies for what an electorate wants, and actually that's not what industry needs. I just wonder to give you the opportunity to respond to that.
Ich mache das auch gerne dann nochmal auf Deutsch. Ich verstehe die Kritik, aber ich habe keine Antwort. Weil ich komme aus dem alten industriellen Herzen Deutschlands. Ich komme aus dem Ruhrgebiet. Und ich bin Sozialdemokrat. Und wenn Sie sich jetzt mal eine Sekunde lang in meine Schuhe stellen, müssen Sie überlegen, wie Sie mit dieser Kritik umgehen, wenn ich Ihnen sage, dass gerade meine Partei in den Teilen des Ruhrgebiets, wo wir früher am stärksten waren, auch am stärksten an die rechtsextremen Parteien verloren haben. Wie soll ich also anders handeln, als bezogen auf einen Wahltermin? Ich muss zum Wahltermin meinen Wählerinnen und Wählern Antworten geben. Die wollen von mir wissen, was hast du in der Vergangenheit dafür getan, um unsere Lebensverhältnisse zu sichern, und was willst du in Zukunft tun, um das zu tun. Und dann kann ich nicht sagen, ich habe jetzt keine Antworten für euch, aber in 10 Jahren dürft ihr mir glauben, ist alles besser. Da finden wir nicht raus. Und wer Demokratie hochhält und sagt, das ist etwas Wichtiges, den Willen der Menschen auch alle 4 oder 5 Jahre abzufragen, der wird niemals daraus herausfinden. Die Kunst muss darin bestehen. Das ist eine schwierige Aufgabe an Politik, aber auch an alle Beteiligten, an Wirtschaft und auch an die das berücksichtigen muss und auch an Gewerkschaften, die damit umzugehen haben, dass wir dem Souverän, also dem Volk, alle paar Jahre eine Antwort geben müssen. Und dann ist natürlich jede politische Kraft, hat das Interesse, möglichst viel Interesse auf sich und möglichst viele Stimmen auf sich zu vereinigen. Und dann müssen wir handlungsfähig und auskunftsfähig sein. Dass das nicht in Transformationsprozesse zu vereinbaren ist, liegt auf der Hand. Aber sorry, Demokratie, ich glaube von Churchill ist der Satz, dass Demokratie eine unbequeme Regierungsform ist, aber er keine bessere kennt. Das gilt dann sicherlich auch hier.
Churchill certainly said a lot of things as well. It's always interesting when a quote from Churchill comes out. Thank you very much. We have a question from Eva Hennig at the back there.
Yes, thank you. Ich bleibe mal auf Deutsch.
Gerne.
Also erstmal herzlichen Dank für den Kampf für das Unbundling. Ich weiß, dass es ein sehr langer Kampf war und ich glaube, das ist für alle Netzbetreiber extrem wichtig.
Eva, can I just get you to pause a moment while we have the English translation?
As you wish, I can also speak.
We are there now. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Also dafür nochmal herzlichen Dank. Eine Frage, Sie hatten gesagt, dass, also jetzt wie es aufgeschrieben ist, der Wasserstoff, vor allem der grüne Wasserstoff, ja in die Industrie gehen soll. Jetzt haben wir in vielen Ländern ja die Besonderheit, dass die Industrie eben an den Verteilnetzen angeschlossen ist. In Deutschland sind es 99%. Und das heißt aber, dass ich neben den Industriekunden meine ganz normalen Kunden habe. Das heißt, also wenn ich den Wasserstoff zum Industriekunden bringe, habe ich natürlich in dem Beritt auch alle anderen. Und wir haben ja in den ersten kommunalen Wärmeplanungen sehen wir ja, dass wir ohne Wasserstoff auch im Wärmesektor nicht auskommen. Und was wir jetzt dazu noch feststellen, ist, dass ganz viele Elektrolyseure quer verteilt über das ganze Land ankommen und angeschlossen werden wollen. Deshalb meine Frage, ist der Text so zu verstehen, dass es also nicht verboten ist, den Wasserstoff in den Wärmesektor zu bringen, nur dass die Präferenz eben darauf ist, dass man sich erstmal um die Industriekunden kümmert, weil da die größte Menge zu holen ist. Habe ich Sie da richtig verstanden?
Genau so ist es. Verbieten können wir an der Stelle nichts. Das Blending war jetzt nicht in meiner Richtlinie, sondern es war bei der Verordnung von Herrn Buzek. Blending wird zugelassen werden in einem gewissen Maßstab, aber unsere Hoffnung war, dass die Größe der industriellen Nachfrage eben auch dazu führt, dass die Netzplanung so ist, dass möglicherweise erste Röhren für Erdgas dann auch redundant werden und dann dem Wasserstoff sehr exklusiv zugeleitet werden können. Wie gesagt, also unsere Überlegungen kommen aus der Grundlage, wo erreichen wir die größte CO2-Einsparung. Und das ist sicherlich da, wo die hohen Temperaturen gebraucht werden. Meine Wohnung zu Hause habe ich selten auf 800 Grad. Insofern ist der Wasserstoff an der Stelle leichter substituierbar. Viele Stadtwerke, viele Energieversorger haben mir erzählt, sie gehen in Neubaugebiete mit einer Gasleitung gar nicht mehr rein, weil die Nachfrage so gering ist. Wir werden sehr, sehr viel in Zukunft mit Wärmepumpen machen können, wenn aber natürlich auch nicht alles. Deswegen ist das kommunale Netz eben, wird nicht völlig redundant, aber zu größeren Bestandteilen. Und dann müssen wir schauen, wie sich das ein bisschen zusammenrüttelt. Aber wir haben nichts verboten, das dürfen wir auch gar nicht.
Thank you very much. Just waiting till the end of the translation there. Thank you for your question. Do I have any more questions in the room? Would anybody else like to? I have a question there. So there's a microphone just to your left. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Thank you very much. I'll speak in Romanian this time.
Let's just wait for a moment, and I will hear when we have a. There we go. So, yep. So we use that one, and then your Romanian. Lovely. And are we ready with the translation?
Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, Florin Popescu is my name. I work for the gas industry for a couple of decades of years. And my question comes for your last words regarding interconnection of the sectors. And while the distinguished speaker comes from the European Parliament, then it's a matter of legislation as well here. The experience proved that, sorry, I spoke in English, I'll come to Romanian, sorry. Experiența anilor trecuți a demonstrat că interconectarea sectoarelor de energie electrică și respectiv gaze naturale a demonstrat de fapt că sectorul energiei electrică are câțiva pași în față și mă bazez pe acest lucru spunând că Directiva 73 privind piața gazelor naturale este încă în vigoare, pe când în domeniul energiei electrice cunoaștem foarte bine și regulamentul și directiva și normele de aplicare în parte, precum și problemele legate de hidrogen albastru, hidrogen verde, alte surse de energie, mă refer la sursele de energie regenerabile în special și țintele asumate la nivel național de fiecare stat membru, pe când în domeniul gazelor, titlul, după cum bine vedem, este Designing the Future of Gas Sector. Cred că trebuie să folosim experiența din domeniul sectorului energie electrică și în acest moment, Comisia, acum câteva zile, pe 23 ianuarie, Comisia a lansat o importantă consultare publică vizând Electricity Market Design. La sfârșitul perioadei de consultare, respectiv în 13 februarie, probabil că vom ști mai mult și vom putea orienta inclusiv concluziile studiului de față în beneficiul viitorului industriei gazelor naturale. Deci interconectarea datelor, interconectarea sectoarelor este foarte importantă. That's I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Also ich habe ehrlich gesagt keine Frage gehört, aber ich kann es gerne kommentieren. Also ich würde Ihnen gar nicht widersprechen. Ja. Okay, also ich habe ehrlich gesagt keine Frage gehört, sondern einen Vorschlag vernommen und den kann ich aber gerne kommentieren. Also wir werden, das war ja eine der Thesen, wir werden einen sich enger verbindenden Energiemarkt sehen. Wir werden eine Situation haben, wo Elektrolyseure an den Küsten entstehen oder direkt auf künstlichen Inseln, sehr nah an den Offshore-Windparks. Das ist einer der großen Vorteile dieser Technologie und auch gerade schon angesprochen, wir werden Elektrolyseure vereinzelt überall an Punkten haben, wo Strom zur Verfügung steht oder eine Wasserstoffabfrage ist. Also die Dinge werden sich verschränken. Und das wird bei Netzplanung Folgen haben, das wird bei Wechsel des Mediums eine Rolle spielen und das wird sicherlich dann auch bei der Gestaltung des Marktes eine Rolle spielen. Da werden alle Erfahrungen, die wir haben, sicherlich eingehen. Insofern kann ich Ihnen nicht widersprechen, will ich gar nicht.
Thank you very much. I am very conscious of time now, and I do know that there are other questions in the room, and I wonder whether, in particular, I know there's a question here you might like to grab on the way out as well. But I'm aware we are now out of time. Mr. Geier, thank you very much for joining us here today. Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot more discussion this afternoon, particularly getting into the detail of the methodology and again, sharing more best practice. We will leave you this afternoon with the way forward and a lot more thoughts and opinions. For now, though, let's take a break. Let's get some lunch for you. And if I could have you back in your seats at 1:30, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, and take your headphones